The calmest man in the room. He lost the deal. The girl walked away. His plan fell apart in front of everyone. But he didn't flinch. He didn't scream. He didn't chase. He didn't beg the world to make it right. He stood there, still, almost peaceful. Why? Because he had already detached from the outcome. See, the most powerful mindset isn't win at all costs. It's let go of how it ends. Master what you control. That's Amor Fati, and it changes everything. Why you're always anxious and how to break free. Let's be real. Most of the stress, anxiety, and disappointment in your life comes from one thing: being attached to how things are supposed to turn out. You text someone and overthink the reply. You do your best at work and still obsess over the result. You build something and secretly expect the world to clap. And when it doesn't go the way you imagined, you spiral. You blame. You feel like you're losing. But here's the thing. You didn't lose because of what happened. You lost because you were never okay unless it happened your way. That's not strength. That's slavery to outcomes. But the Stoics had a different way. They called it Amor Fati, love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but embracing it, welcoming it as if it were exactly what you needed, even when it breaks your plan. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn 4 simple, powerful Stoic strategies to help you detach from the outcome, reclaim your peace, and move through life with unshakable clarity. Because once you stop needing everything to go your way, you become untouchable. 1. Amor Fati. Love what happens, not what you wanted. Let's face it, you had a plan. You thought things would work out a certain way. The job, the relationship, the timing, the reward. But life had other ideas. It always does. And when things don't go your way, what do? Most people cling harder. They replay the moment. They ask, why me? They resist what happened, as if their disappointment could rewrite reality. But here's the brutal truth the Stoics understood. Reality doesn't care about your plans. And the more you resist what's already happened, the more powerless you become. That's where Amor Fati comes in. It's not about being passive. It's not whatever happens, happens. It's deeper than that. It means I don't just accept what happens, I choose to love it. Why? Because anything less is war with the universe, and that's a war you'll lose every single time. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about this in theory. He lived it. He lost children. He faced betrayal. He fought plagues and wars. And in the middle of all that, he wrote this: to love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony. That's not resignation. That's power. It's a mindset that says, whatever comes my way, I will meet it with strength, not complaint. Here's a modern example. A man builds a business for 3 years. It fails. He loses money, status, confidence. Most people would spiral. But the Stoic doesn't ask, why did this happen? He asks, how can I use this? And that's the shift Amor Fati gives you. It turns every loss into a lesson, every ending into a beginning, every why me into watch me. So how do you build this mindset? Start with this habit. At the end of each day, write down one thing that didn't go your way, big or small. Then write this underneath. This too was meant for me. I will not resist it. I will use it. You do that long enough, something inside you hardens, but not in a bitter way, in a focused, unshakable way. You become less reactive, more resilient, calm, even when everything falls apart. And from that calm, you move smarter. You stop panicking. You start adapting. That's not weakness. That's Stoic strength in its rawest form. So now that you understand what Amor Fati really means, let's go deeper. Because loving fate is just the beginning. Acting without attachment to the outcome, that's where your inner power gets dangerous. Second shift. Your focus from outcome to action. Here's something most people don't want to admit. They're not actually doing their best. They're doing what they hope will get them the result they want. Subtle difference, massive impact. Think about it. You study hard, not to understand, but to get the grade. You say the right things, not because it's who you are, but because you want someone to like you. You work out, not to build discipline, but because you're chasing a certain look, and the moment you don't get the outcome you expected, you collapse. You question everything. You wonder, what's the point? But here's what the Stoics would say. The point was never the outcome. It was always your effort, your intention, your integrity. Epictetus puts it bluntly. Some things are in our control, some things are not. And outcomes? They're not. You don't control if they say yes. You don't control if the market responds. You don't control how fast your body transforms. You control the process, the action, the way you show up when no one's clapping. So here's the mindset shift. Stop working to win. Start working to align. Align with discipline, with clarity, with your values. A Stoic wakes up and asks, what's the right move today, regardless of how it turns out? They don't chase perfect conditions. They act from principle and trust that the outcome will unfold however it must. Here's a practice you can start today. Before every task, whether it's a workout, a conversation, a job interview, pause for 10 seconds and ask, what's in my control right now? And how can I show up with excellence no matter the result? Then go do that. That's how you start anchoring your identity in effort, not outcome. And when your identity is rooted in consistent action, you become unshakable. Not because everything goes your way, but because you've stopped tying your worth to what happens. It's no longer about what you get. It's about who you're becoming through what you do. And that version of you can't be touched by failure, because he's not chasing validation. He's practicing mastery. Now, let's take that clarity one step further. You've learned to shift focus. But what happens when other people start judging your results? That's where the next Stoic move kicks in. 3. Let go of praise and blame. Let's get brutally honest for a second. Most people don't fear failure. They fear what people will think if they fail. It's not the quiet moment alone after something didn't work out. It's the imaginary headlines in their mind. They're laughing at me. They don't respect me anymore. I let everyone down. So what do? They adjust. They shape-shift. They say what's expected, post what gets likes, pursue what earns praise. And without realizing it, they've outsourced their identity to the approval of other people. But the Stoics had no interest in that game. Epictetus said it flat out. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, let go of praise. Let go of blame. Let go of being understood. Because here's the trap. When you crave praise, you also become vulnerable to blame. And when you chase validation, you begin to betray yourself, bit by bit, day by day. The Stoic alternative: live by your inner scorecard. You don't need the world to clap. You need to know deeply that you acted from strength. Think of it like this. There's a version of you that performs for applause, and there's a version of you that performs because it's who you are. Which one do you want to become? Here's a story. A man presents an idea at work. It gets ignored. Someone else says something similar. And that gets applause. He feels invisible, frustrated, disrespected. But the Stoic doesn't spiral. He steps back and asks, was what I offered valuable? Was I clear? Was I honest? If yes, he moves on. If not, he improves. But he doesn't anchor his peace to other people's reactions. Here's a practice. Each night, ask yourself 3 questions. Did I act in alignment with my values? Did I stay true to what I believe, even when it wasn't popular? Did I let anyone else's opinion distort how I showed up? If you can answer those questions honestly, you'll start building a life based on internal clarity, not external noise. And there's nothing more intimidating than someone who no longer needs to be liked, understood, or praised. Because that person can't be manipulated, can't be guilt-tripped, can't be owned. They're not reckless, they're rooted. And once you have that level of inner stability, you're finally ready for the Stoic technique that breaks fear completely, visualizing loss and still standing strong. Let's go there next. 4. Visualize the loss and accept it. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain. They avoid thinking about it, avoid planning for it, avoid even mentioning the possibility that something they love might end. But the Stoics, they did the exact opposite. They looked pain straight in the eye and trained for it before it arrived. This practice is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of loss. At first, it sounds dark. Why imagine something going wrong? Why picture losing someone you love? Why think about failure, betrayal, death? Because when it finally comes, you won't be surprised. You'll be ready. See, most suffering isn't caused by the event itself. It's caused by the shock that it happened at all. But if you've rehearsed it in your mind, if you've already looked it in the face, then when it hits, you're not destroyed. You're prepared. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has already rehearsed their coming." It's not about pessimism, it's about emotional immunity. Here's what this looks like in real life. You wake up one morning and remind yourself, this business I'm building could fail. This person I love could leave. This body I live in could stop working. And instead of panicking, you breathe. You remind yourself that loss is part of the deal, that nothing is truly yours, that everything you hold can slip away. And you say, even this I can endure, even this I can use. You don't become cold, you become clear. You don't detach from love or passion or effort. You just stop pretending that those things are permanent. And here's the paradox. Once you accept that everything is temporary, you start showing up fully. You stop taking people for granted. You stop waiting for the right moment. You stop clinging and start living. This mindset doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you grounded, honest, ready. Here's a simple practice. Each morning, take 1 minute and silently imagine losing something important. Your job, your home, your health, a person you love. Not to scare yourself, but to anchor yourself. Then, as you move through the day, carry this quiet strength inside you. If it lasts, I'm grateful. If it ends, I'll stand. That's Stoic power, not the kind that fights fate, but the kind that walks beside it, without fear. And once you've reached that place of radical acceptance, it's time to bring all 4 strategies together. Let's close this out strong. Your peace begins where attachment ends. Let's bring it all together. You've been trained your whole life to chase outcomes, to obsess over results, to hold on tight, like your life depends on things going exactly as planned. But the truth is, that grip is what's choking your peace. The more you cling, the more anxious you become. The more you expect, the more disappointed you are. The more you need to win, be understood, be praised, the less power you have over your own mind. That's why the Stoics chose another path. Not because they were emotionless, not because they didn't care, but because they knew that freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity, and clarity comes from letting go. Letting go of what's not yours. Letting go of how things should turn out. Letting go of needing to be seen, heard, applauded. Letting go to move forward with power. So here's the blueprint you now have. 1. Amor Fati. Love what happens, even when it breaks your plan. Shift from outcome to action. Measure yourself by discipline, not results. 3. Detach from praise and blame. Live from your values, not their opinions. Visualize loss. Prepare for the worst, so you can live fully now. Individually, these are powerful. Together, they make you untouchable. Because once you stop needing the world to go your way, you start walking through it with quiet dominance. No panic, no ego, just presence and power. So here's your next step. Pick one of these 4 habits, not all of them, just one, and do it for the next 7 days. Seriously, test it in the real world. Watch how you respond differently. Watch how much energy you save. Watch how much stronger, calmer, and sharper you feel. Because this mindset isn't just ancient philosophy, it's a weapon. And once it's in your hands, you don't just survive the chaos, you lead through it. Want to take this to the next level? Watch this next. Mastering emotional resilience with Stoicism. Learn how to build an inner core so solid that no emotion, no setback, no betrayal can shake it.